Why did the church ignore the dinosaur? The church throughout the years has magnified all our fears by clinging to the symbol of a god they adore. But their error is quite colossal, for they missed every fossil. Why did the church continue to ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? Why did the church ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? How could the church ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? Why did the church ignore the dinosaur? They claimed the earth was flat, and that was a fact. A westward ship would fall off the ocean floor. But when Greek scientists found that the earth was round, the church just continued to ignore. The earth was flat, the earth was flat. Why did the church say that? The earth was flat, the earth was flat. How could the church teach that? The earth was flat, the earth was flat. Why would the church say that? The earth was flat. When some people stared at night skies, it was to their great surprise that the center of the universe was not the earth's core. When they studied the stars and sun, they tried to tell everyone, but the church just continued to ignore the universe, the universe. Why did the church ignore the universe, the universe? How could the church ignore the universe, the universe? Why would the church ignore the universe? When Darwin came up with his theory, the church thought it was eerie, for the theory said we descended from apes before. With this natural selection, the church's predilection was simply to continue to ignore evolution, evolution. Why did the church ignore evolution, evolution? How could the church ignore evolution, evolution? Why did the church ignore evolution? For religion and the sciences cannot make strong alliances, especially from the faithful to whom they swore. But the simple truths eluded made the church deluded, so the church just continued to ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur. Why did the church ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? How could the church ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? Why did the church ignore the dinosaur? Why did the church ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? Why would the church ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? Why did the church ignore the dinosaur, the dinosaur? How could the church ignore the dinosaur?